Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's webinar, Live Forex Market Review at ACY Securities. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we get into it, if you can read through the risk disclaimer. If you're on our YouTube live chat, I cannot see the chat there, but you're more than welcome to watch. So if everyone can just read through the risk disclaimer, any questions to the chat box or the question and answer box, that would be great. All right, so I'll just give you a moment to read through that. All right, let's move along. All right, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm a senior market strategist and trading mentor here at ACY Securities, and I'm a full-time Forex trader. Been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years, mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there on screen, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And through the week, you can connect with me at our website. Go to the Market News tab, so acy.com Market News tab on our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And you can connect with me as well through the week on Twitter and LinkedIn. As well, our Telegram channel, you can connect in there. If you don't have access, contact Nathan.bray. I'll put his details in the chat momentarily. If you'd like to get access to our Telegram channel where we're posting analysis, then contact Nathan. If you want to get access to my MT4 platform, indicators, layouts, and templates, contact Nathan. He will set you up. So I'll put his details in the chat. So if you've got a question about trading at ACY, contact Nathan. If you want to set up a demo account, you need help with a demo account or a live account, just contact Nathan. He's the go-to man. So that's in the chat there. All right, let's get into it. So let's have a look at the news first of all. Let's bring that up. So we've got some news coming out for 10:30 p.m. tonight. We've got US prelim GDP QQ, US unemployment claims, and then more US news tomorrow evening, 10:30 p.m. core PCE price index coming out. Okay. So those are the main news events to look towards. We had the FOMC meeting minutes come out this morning. I don't think much really changed too much. Didn't affect the market anyway. So with that in mind, let's get to the charts. Now, we're most definitely seeing at the moment on the US dollar front, continued upward move now on the dollar index. And hi there, Jojo. You got to see you got your hand up. I think hopefully you're just saying hello. If you want to ask me anything, just put a question in the chat box or the question box. But hi to you. And I can't always remember who's been on before or not, but if you are new to the webinars today, welcome. I can see some names there that aren't looking that familiar, but if you're new, welcome. Feel free to ask a question. All right, so we're looking at the dollar index at the moment. And on the weekly perspective, in fact, I'm going to go to the monthly perspective. I discussed these double top area, and we're moving above this potential area of resistance here, the monthly. And I've been much more looking at the fact that we've got weekly support here, weekly resistance at the top, and we're moving back up to the top of the range potentially. So we need to obviously move beyond the monthly resistance level, 103.81 from over here, which we're above at the moment. And the day chart is just showing you a clear uptrend at the moment. We consolidated for about 4 or 5 weeks down here, and that consolidation is broken into a very strong trend. I do say from long periods of consolidation, we will break into a nice strong trend. So that's pretty much what's happening there at the moment. Consolidation for 4 or 5 weeks. There's always the question down here, where we're breaking lower. And I was pretty much on the idea that we could hold here to move up, but you know, I was starting to think maybe I was going to be wrong. But we're moving up nicely now. S&P 500 on the indices. Whilst we started the week up at the top there, this colored area is just all these weekly tops. And we're pretty much just below the 79% level of the monthly range here. So are we topping out up there? It's very difficult going on the S&P 500 at the moment. I would look to something else, but quite clearly we're holding at resistance up there at the moment. There's not enough good reasons for the market to get excited to move higher in the stock market. All right. So a little bit still sideways here. That's a higher top. That is still a higher bottom until broken. So it's a little bit consolidatory to slightly up there on the day chart. I would look to something else to trade at the moment. That's not that pretty at the moment, but so we're seeing most definitely US dollar strength, S&P 500 slightly outtrend to sideways there at the moment. All right, I want to get into the currency pairs now. So we'll start with we'll go to the pound first. I'll put this out in Telegram today. We try to move above this monthly resistance area, the double top area here, after the CPI data got released yesterday, which was positive CPI data than expected, but it really just false broke resistance and then had an outside day down. So this is in a downtrend here on the daily. 4-hour chart trend here is down. We're just maybe overextended to the downside now, and we need to look for a correction rally. Now it could just hold at this 4-hour broken low, but we may come up further within that 4-hour range. The level I put out on Telegram today was this area of broken day support, 123.91. So I was looking at, and still looking at potentially 123.91, broken day support up to the figure and the central pivot point here. Can price move into that area? Now at the moment we still haven't got there. Often in a strong downtrend, and I discussed this last night in the pivot point webinar, the central pivot point is the high of the day in a strong downtrend. So we are rather weak at the moment. So I'm still watching that area to see whether we can come up to test daily resistance, the central pivot point, and the figure. We may well get capped around about the 12400 level if we keep moving up. So watch the area of failure. Can you see set up to sell? Okay. All right, but the dominant trend versus the US dollar, if it's a pair to the US dollar, is down. So looking to sell a rally after the decline of yesterday. Pound yen. Now this pair is at the top of the market in terms of monthly resistance here. We could move above and through. This isn't theoretically an uptrend, higher top, higher bottom, but we're holding at resistance for the last couple of weeks. This weekly trend is up. It is trying to get above that top now, but that's not where I don't buy there. I'm not going to buy trying to break above monthly resistance. I don't buy breaks. I need to pull back to support. I would need to see this clearly move away and above here at the moment, and then look for this area to be support on a pullback. I don't have that at the moment. I see a lot of, best part of a week, we've been false breaking this monthly top over here. 172.13 now. We're about 50 pips above there. Don't know if that's reclassing a break yet, but on the 4-hour chart, you can see how choppy it is. We're testing some of the high 4-hour points of the week. And it wouldn't surprise me to see this move back below daily resistance and the monthly resistance level, these two lines here. So I'm not trading that pair at the moment. I would like to see this just top out at resistance and see a clear reversal, but it's not showing that. And I'm not going to buy into resistance. So it's just not on the cards for me at the moment. I could entertain a failure up here, tight entry on the 15-minute chart. Let's just put 4-hour resistance in here. That top just there, 172.61.6, which is pretty much where we are. I could entertain a failure here to trade back down. Of course, at the moment, price is just moving up. But I'm not going to be buying into 4-hour resistance and the high of the week. That's where all the sellers are. So you have to be realistic about what's going on. So at the moment, I would just be watching to see whether the price is going to fail up there at resistance at the moment, and then see whether you can see a setup that you like to maybe sell down. You know, to get along at the moment, I would clearly need to see this area price clearly move beyond this area now, and then use the area for support. We don't have that yet. So until I see that, I would just have to leave that pair alone. Euro dollar, clear downtrend on the day chart here at the moment. And significantly, if you go to the weekly chart at the moment, this top could be support. It has been support kind of through the week. But, and Slavy saying, do you see a diamond figure there? I'm not quite sure what a diamond figure is. On the pound yen there, you're talking about? On the 4 hour? Well, yeah, you could have, I see what you're saying. If you drew some lines in here, you could create a diamond figure, but I'm not quite sure what that pattern means. To me, this is just consolidatory, range bound, false breaking support and resistance on the 4 hour chart. But, all right, let's talk about the euro dollar. So we've been a little bit holding on this weekly top, 107.36, a little bit short of it through the week, and now we're starting to move below it today. So with that being said, the weekly trend is up here, but we may have had a complete failure up here. We are where we've been topping out. We're topping out at the 79% level of the yearly range. We could be moving, maybe we're moving down all year now from this topping point. So starting to move below weekly support, which is negative. We could be heading down towards the low of the year at the moment at 105.15. So to your day chart, we've been getting we were getting some support at this top here at 107.59, but we've over the last 24 to 48 hours, yesterday we broke below that level, and today we're breaking below this level. So we may well see over the course of the next couple of trading days that we move clearly below that level, and that area becomes now resistance for a continued move down. So it's clearly downtrend at the moment on the daily. It's clearly downtrend on the 4 hour, but we're potentially at the bottom of a 4 hour move here. So just jumping in, shorting because it keeps moving down probably isn't the best idea. You know, for a good number of days, 107.59 here was support from the day chart. That's last week's low as well. Then we've broken down through the last 24 hours. That would be an obvious level to be resistance now. And you can draw a fib from high to low. And 62% levels at 107.67. That resistance there at 107.59. So about 18 pip little area there. Could be a good area to look for price to falter at if it did rally back up. All right. Notably, though, any rally in London at the moment is getting capped now at the weekly level. So the broken level of weekly supports, you can see it there, got capped for resistance. So maybe we can't get up to the higher level, but I would look to the higher level rather than this level at the moment. I would monitor that 4 hour range. If price keeps moving down, just keep dragging the fib down. And, you know, look for the very obvious, you know, move back up to 62 of the 79% levels on the 4 hour range for a move back down. And I would watch this 107.59 level, broken support, it's last week's low, to be resistance if we could rally back up there. All right. A bit difficult at the moment. Pairs are just not rallying in the context of a 4 hour range at the moment. They're still moving down. So patience is the game. Azu, hi there. Jojo, you got a question? You're asking me, do I have a PDF copy of how to understand and apply the kind of technical analysis? Well, in Wednesday's webinars, I do education and go through the techniques that I'm using in the live analysis webinars, like tonight. So attending those webinars, I have PDFs of the presentations that you can get access to as you come along to those webinars. Okay. If you contact Nathan, he might be able to give you some access to some video recordings as well. So I'll put his details in the chat there for you at the start of the webinar. Okay. All right, hopefully that helps you. All right, now looking for a rally then there on the euro dollar. Primarily be watching for a move back up to 107.59 in a perfect world, and then look for an opportunity to sell down from that level. The euro yen, now it is a little bit range bound, the euro yen. I just want to get rid of that colored area. All right, this one at 149.77 level, which has no reference here, but go to your monthly chart, it's this high over here. Quite possibly the market is trying to hold at that level, and we may well see a long-term failure at that level. Weekly trend here though is still up, high tops and bottoms, so we could over time, yes, come back up to test the high point here at 151.61. The daily trend is holding to an uptrend. It is trying to hold on this support level here at 149.26 on any intraday dips. So it's actually wedged between day support and monthly resistance here. And you can see it's rather range bound. We've actually moved to a lower bottom there and then came up. There's a higher bottom there, but a lower top to that top. So it's getting very range bound. And I'm just monitoring at the moment where that's last week's high. You can see any movement above last week's high, we're falling back below. Moving above last week's high, falling back below. If you can see a tight entry, whatever your setup you're using, I would be looking at 149.77, the monthly resistance level, and last week's high. Last week, we just stopped at that monthly high, the 149.77 level. So it's been clearly referenced by the market. Last week's high, folks breaking it this week. To the 15-minute chart, we have been trading down. If you draw a fib from the current high of the day to the low, 62% level overlaps perfectly with the monthly resistance level that we've been false breaking. Now, we could false break that a little bit on a move back up. I always like to sell at the 79% level if I'm anticipating a rally decline. You know, we could have failed up there at 150, moving back below the monthly resistance high. We may well see, you know, we could come up to the 62 and fail now, or we could come up to the 79% level and fail and maybe put another leg down this way intraday today. All right, so watch the 62% level, 149.77, and the 79% level, 149.88. Do those levels offer you the opportunity to maybe trade down? All right, dominant trend of the day intraday is looking like it's more down now. So watch that area there at the moment. What happens at last week's high once more? It's just coming up to fill this imbalance at the moment. And that imbalance kind of overlaps with the 62% level. So that might just be as far as that can rally back up. You can monitor that. Euro pound, still very choppy. It's just leaning a little bit more down to the downtrend. I did earlier in the week say watch resistance up here, which it did fail at perfectly. On the 4-hour chart here, fell perfectly up there. It's very choppy, and it is holding on last week's low here and weekly support at 86.69. So I'm just pausing because I've got something else coming from Jojo. So Jojo, if you contact Nathan, he should be able to help you out with some material and maybe some videos as well. Okay, his email is in the chat there. I can repost his email. I'll repost his contact details for you. There we go. Thanks. All right, so the euro pound is rather range bound. It's sitting on weekly supports. I would still be maybe treating this as a range. although the bias is to the downside, I would look to the high level of the range. If price can move back up to the top of the range, I would look up there to then look for an opportunity to trade down in line with the high time frame trend. I mean, yes, to get there, price has to move up. So you could say, well, why don't you buy here? But I don't know about price can get up there. Price may just have, you know, a 10 or 20 pip rally here and then drop through support. So I would look to the higher level of resistance. That's from 87.18 up to 87.22 at the moment. That's pretty much where we're holding at. You can see all these highs to the left. We might be gradually grinding through support. But that would be my mode of operation down the euro pound. Look to the top of the range if price can revisit that for an opportunity to sell down. Back down to support. Okay. All right, let's get into the Aussie yen. Now, I did post out a really nice opportunity to trade down in Telegram this week, filling at 92.24. It's a little bit flat today. And this could still move back up. We do have higher bottom, higher top, but we're filling at the top of the range. And the range that I'm talking about is from that high to low. And we've once more moved back below the 79% level. So are we topping out here? This is the current month's high. And highs to the left here, that's March's high, that's February's high, that's January's high. So all these monthly highs have been very prominent here, holding the market at the top. So are we going to start to see a longer term move back down to support? Now, on the 4 hour, I would be monitoring the range here that we've moved down from. A little double top there on the 4 hour. Monitor this range, and if the market wants to be nice, we could see a 79% retracement pattern form for then a move down this way. So I would be watching up here for a further test. We've got resistance here too at 91.86. All right, so look for maybe a 79% rally failure for continue to move down. All right, I might just leave that as it is. Aussie dollar. Now, obviously, we can't go back in time, but hopefully somebody sold up here at 68. I posted that out in Telegram just ahead of this failure here. I actually got short at 68. And I did put out on Telegram today to look for a rally back up here to resistance if it wanted to do that today to sell down from, but we're not yet getting a rally. Price doesn't have to rally. You can come up with levels that would be ideal to trade from. However, you know, I don't like to sell at the bottom of a move. Now we're just trading into support here at the moment. That's why this isn't the best area to be a seller. There's daily chart support over here. Now there's the potential, I discussed this morning, this could be a double top. We're breaking out of the range that was formed here. That's a double top. I've got the fib drawn across the range. The height of the pattern projected below comes down here at 63.41. That would be an excellent target at the moment for this pair to move down to and look to sell a rally. So at the moment, I'm watching as a level to trade down from the midpoint here where we broke. So to the 4 hour chart, that's what I colored in this morning, this area here. Now price isn't rallying yet. Might not rally up there today, but it could rally up there over the next 1 to 2 days over the course of time. And support has potentially broken. Does it now become resistance? So down to my 15-minute chart here, you've got the central pivot points and you've got 2 weekly levels of support broken here, 65.64, 65.73. The higher level was last month's low as well. So if there was a question, if I just open up a new chart, if there was a question of what the trend was on the monthly, because it was getting a little bit sideways, just want a blank chart. We did actually take out the high of last month. last 2 months have been higher highs, but now we're breaking this little kind of swing bottom that was forming. So if there was a question that we might have been forming a higher bottom here, I think that question's been broken now. The trend is just down. And the weekly chart here, you know, some form of, I guess, I don't really use flags, but some form of flag here, maybe slight rising channel there before breaking back down to the downside. We could well see the last year's low revisited, I think. Last year's range, we rallied back up to the 62% level, forming a double top there. We could actually have a double top price projection from that double top, which comes in at 55.72. Sorry, it comes in lower than that. It comes in at 52.03, which would mean if that came in, we would need to break last year's, that's the COVID low. All right, we would need to break last year's low, which was 61.69. And we would need to break the COVID low at 50, pretty much 55. All right, so we could see a very much long-term move down here, and yes, retest last year's low. And ultimately, if this larger double top here comes into long-term fruition, most definitely see, you know, 52. It's not out of the question. I'll have to wait and see. All right, that's not going to happen next week, quite obviously, and it may not happen this year. What are we? We're 1,300 pips away, so we could get there this year, but something dramatic would need to happen in the marketplace to really, you know, get a move down there. But you never know what can happen in the market these days. But we can most definitely retest last year's low. Last year's low is only, it's less than 400 pips away, so we can definitely get to last year's low quite easily. All right, so it looks like we may be breaking out this kind of rising sideways channel to the downside. And you've got that smaller double top there, leading to this price actually moving down. And we also have that larger double top there as well. So now I'm just focusing on to the downside. I'm going to try and hold my shorts at 68 to maybe trade down to last year's low if price can really get going. We'll wait and see. All right, so back to my other charts, looking for I'm just pausing. Got something coming in the chat. Looking for a rally back up towards that 65.64 to 65.73 resistance here at the moment on the Aussie. Slightly saying pound yen is forming a double top right now. What you mean on the day chart perspective? It's holding. Are you saying from the day chart perspective or from this whole area here? Yeah, I mean, potentially this could be a double top as well. I don't know if this is going to break north at the moment, but we need to see a really nice negative day down to, you know, get back below there. We could still break north here, but yeah, potentially we could have a long-term double top here, but it's just a little bit leaning to the upside ever so slightly at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, potentially over the next 2 weeks, we may well start to see that develop. And then yes, if it starts to develop, looking for an opportunity to short. I mean, this could be holding at this 4-hour top right now. I mean, this could be a great area to short if you want to be really aggressive. You know, maybe shorting here with a 100 pip stop and being really aggressive. And then if it moves back down to the bottom of the range, get your risk out, and then hopefully it can start to break down to the downside. All right, so we covered the Aussie pairs, covered the Euro pairs. What's that Euro dollar's doing? It's still got a bit of a bid on it at the moment. Pound dollar may well revisit that level I was discussing before. It's still got some form of bid to it intraday at the moment. All right, New Zealand yen. I don't know if anybody had the guts to sell up here with the interest rate decision coming out the next day. It was a very obvious area to look for a reversal. I did discuss that area, daily resistance, and also from the monthly chart, monthly resistance here. It was just a little bit tricky with the interest rate decision coming out. I was hoping it would stub up there after the interest rate decision, but it didn't. So we've had obviously a complete failure up there. We may well be moving back down to the lower end of the range at least. I think they came out yesterday and said that we're probably at the peak of interest rates now in New Zealand. And from what I saw from Luca from our analysis team on the fundamental side, he's saying that potentially in the fourth quarter of this year, they could well be getting to the point to cut interest rates in New Zealand. So that bodes to the downside in terms of interest rate differentials and maybe the pricing on the New Zealand dollar. So we may have put in maybe a final top up here to at least move down to test the lower end of the range. And at the moment, I haven't got it in at the moment, but there's a weekly top here that I have been discussing. I just want to double check that level, just there, 84916. This area has been resistance. You can see it failed here to move down, failed in through here a number of times. And you can see now today's high actually failed at that weekly high, and we're moving below this high. So what I'd like to see at the moment is that we get a clear move below 84.91 now. So if we move to the 4-hour chart, we get a clear move away from this area. We've got 84.91 to 85.20, which is weekly potential resistance. Now, can we move down? And then does that become resistance for a continued move down? At the moment where price is, you can see it's very sideways. There's lots of shadows or wicks at the bottom of these candles. This could be getting some form of support here to move back up this way and potentially fill this imbalance here. So if we continue down, I'm going to look for this area to be resistance. But what could happen in the short term? I'm looking to the short side, but what could happen in the short term is that this move down, we rally back up. So then look to sell a rally if a rally comes. This 85.90 level here could offer resistance as well. So just sitting on my hands at the moment, waiting for that price just to develop a bit more. Does it come back up to put in a lower top? So on the day chart, you know, that big drop there, does it come up maybe next week to put in some form of lower top? That would be a very obvious level to watch for then the continued move this way. So a very negative reaction to what we're expecting. We were expecting a 25 basis point rise, which came. Maybe the market was expecting maybe 50 basis points like last time, potentially. But as soon as the rate came out, it just dropped. So looking for that kind of opportunity at the moment. It's a little bit oversold at the moment. I wouldn't be chasing the lower the move at the moment. Same on the New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar is looking very, very similar to the Aussie, to the day chart. It's been very range bound. We've actually created some form of triple top up here. These two highs here, they're very similar to the double top I was discussing on the Aussie. So we could say the exact same thing. Is this a double top here? If it is, we've obviously broken the midpoint and we've traded below that point as well. Putting a fib across the range, price projection for the double top comes down at 58.40. So can we finally break through support and continue to move below supports? That is the question. Now you can see today's high came in and held at the old support level to be resistance at 61.10. So what I'd like to see at the moment is let's have a good day down below this low, 60.84, and then can that be resistance next week or tomorrow for a continued move down towards the 58.40 level. So potentially this area could be support and we could move back up, but I think the market has maybe declared itself a little bit on the New Zealand dollar that anticipating interest rates have gotten to the peak. We may be then seeing a reduction in interest rates through the year. So the market may well be starting to, position itself for that. All right. But this is very overextended at the moment. So we could still move down long term, but see some price cycle back up here too. So this is very much too far down for me at the moment to be a seller. 61.87, which is an area of daily support that was. Go back to your day chart here, see how it was up, support, up. We could come back to this area quite easily, which is 61.87 if it wants to. It would just be nice to have a clear day down today, well below this low, and then we could maybe start to consider that it's clearly broken and then look to that area to be resistance for a sell on a rally back too. But at the moment, this could easily come back up to 61.87. All right. So lots of pairs at the moment, a little bit overextended. On your 50-minute chart here, you can just see it's rather sideways, but any rallies at the moment, if you want to engage with a tight stop today, any rallies at the moment are getting capped now at the 6100 level. All right. So broken level 6110, 6100 there. If you can construct something that's real tight, you could look for price to maybe come back up to 6100 to 6110. And if you can see a nice tight entry, price could hold there to then clearly move below supports. All right. But it is overextended to the downside at the moment. So, you have to ask yourself, you got that big fear of missing out at the moment? Or would you rather just be patient and wait for maybe a little bit more of a rally back up before looking to position yourself to the short side? I mean, even if it starts to move up, I would not try to engage personally to the upside. There's a definite fundamental shift at the moment on this pair to the downside. So fundamentally, we could just have the next 5 days down. All right. I'm not going to contemplate trying to get cute and trade back up the range, but looking for a very obvious area to look for maybe a short. But I'd much prefer up here at the moment at 61.87. However, I don't know whether we can get that high, but I'd like to see some form of movement back up. Just moving back up in the short term here isn't such a great move. It's just very minor. So I like to major in major things rather than minor things. Just want to go back to the pounds to see what that's doing. All right, still going up towards that area. All right, dollar CAD has broken above the daily resistance area here. So we're back into an uptrend now. We have been a little bit stuck between daily resistance and daily supports. Back to an uptrend there on the daily. So then I would look, the next bone of contention is up here at monthly resistance where we failed last time, 136.64. Your weekly trend here predominantly is a little bit mixed, but we've got all these higher bottoms here. Got a lower top formed and all these higher bottoms. So maybe all those higher bottoms trumps that one lower top. And I'm just pausing up a few more questions coming in. Azuri saying, how do I get price projection? Is it resistance area? Are you talking about the double tops projection? Or are you just talking about projection generally? Or I'll just wait for you to maybe answer me. And you want me to projections generally? While I will use if I see a clear trend. So let's say we have an uptrend. I will use a fib tool for price target. So if we're having a pullback within the trend here, maybe to the 62.79, as a price projection of that trend, I look up to the 127 extension level. So if I'm using a fib tool across ranges, I will use that. In terms of just generally, I tend to focus on support and resistance. So let's just take the dollar Canadian here, which is rather range bound. And I might just take out a couple of lines here. The major levels of support and resistance are weekly support down here, monthly resistance up here. So let's say you looked for an opportunity to be a buy down here at support, and you got into a bought position here. For a target, I would look to target at the previous level of resistance that we traded down from as a projection. All right. In terms of using the bigger levels of support and resistance. From a double top or double bottom perspective, like I've been showing you there on the Aussie, here's the Aussie. My fib tools all pre-configured from a double top pattern. The height of the pattern from high to low projected below is the 200% point here. So I use that as a projection. All right, so that gives you some ideas. All right, so to the Canadian dollar at the moment, the weekly chart is predominantly a little bit more maybe favoring the upside to the downside, all these support lows, even though we have a lower top. So it is potentially mixed. And we are getting back up to the high level of resistance up here. We have moved above this day chart resistance here now at 135.67. So if you're looking to maybe trade up on this pair with the trend on the day chart, 135.67 should be now support on an intraday pullback. So I'll be focusing on that as support there at the moment. 24-hour chart, you're just going to see that this is in an uptrend. So I will be drawing a fib across the range and continuing it up if price keeps moving up. Now, if we do pull back to the 62 level, well, the 79% level, we're clearly not going to get support on that top. All right, but what I can see, even though if we did move below that top and we wanted to pull back within this range, that 62% level is quite a nice level because it kind of situates within this area of 4-hour support. Broken 4-hour tops become support. Overlaps with the 62% level there. So that would be a very logical level to watch if price can pull back to. Just basing a look down the 4-hour chart. If we drop down to the 15-minute chart, it'd be nice to see where the central pivot point is. Today's central pivot point is just underneath that high at 135.67, which is last week's high as well. So that would be a very good area to look for support intraday today if price could pull back. All right. Had a nice, and also, that area there, when we look at price action on the 15-minute chart from yesterday, there is a bit of an imbalance in here too. The whole imbalance is kind of there, but the first portion of it is there. And if we actually we could get support there, or we could actually move down to this area here. But this is a very logical area. It kind of lines up with the imbalance forming of yesterday. So central pivot point, if you don't have my pivots, is at 135.63. Broken day resistance is at 135.67. So that would be the area that I would watch on that pair for a pullback too. And then can you see a setup to buy intraday today at that area? I don't know whether it's going to get down there. It doesn't look like it's got the momentum at the moment to get down there. It looks like it's getting some form of support just from, if I color it in, all these 15-minute lows there that formed yesterday are offering support there today. So might not be able to break through this area of support to get down to this area. So this could be the actual area to watch for support to trade up from, okay? All right, getting to dollar franc, much like the dollar index, this is just showing you high tops and bottoms moving up. It is getting into quite a strong area of resistance at the moment. If I move to the weekly charts, we're moving up to weekly resistance here, broken weekly support, and that's broken monthly support over there at 90.84. So the market could potentially stop here. So it's not a great area at the moment to be a buy. You really need to have bought by now to maybe profit from a further move up. All right. We did have a nice pullback to monthly support earlier in the week, which was a good level to watch. But at the moment, it's in quite a dangerous area of resistance. Depending on what the US news brings tonight, I mean, this could actually trade down from here. This is strong resistance. So at the moment, if we're going to continue up into a trend, now that we're at strong resistance, you really want to see price break nicely above. And then next week, look to 90.84 down to 90.59 to be support for then a move up that way. So I don't like to buy into resistance. I want resistance to flip to become support. We don't have that yet. So at the moment, you could watch the resistance area to hold to trade down intraday. You can see at the moment it's holding there right now. All right, but the underlying trend on the day chart is up. I really just feel like price needs to now really push up and beyond resistance, let that become support before looking to trade that pair in line with the trend that we're seeing unfold. Now, in terms of the pivot points, if you were with me on yesterday, here's a central pivot point. Yesterday, we could not get below the central pivot point. In a strong upward trend, price will often low at the central pivot point. Today's price action, there's a central pivot point. It only just touched the central pivot point. Oh, it's actually missed the central pivot point by a pip. And then we've been up. So even if we fail at resistance here today to trade back down, I would look at the central pivot point to be support because offered strong support there yesterday. It has offered strong support there in the early part of the day. That's Asia's low. That area could once more offer very strong support to move back up again from the pivot point perspective, okay? Discussed that with you yesterday if you're with me. Techno, I'm just reading your question. You're saying, please provide the webinars video on YouTube in form of quality HD video after a few minutes webinars, and I'm not quite sure what that means. If you contact Nathan, he may well be able to organize for you a recording, okay? And this webinar tonight will be just on our YouTube channel, so you don't need to request that. If you just go to our YouTube channel, go to our YouTube channel, here's our YouTube channel, go to live. This is us now, but later on there will be a recording there of this webinar. Right, so all the analysis webinars, the recordings are there after the webinar. Okay, just go to, I'll put that in the chat. You can catch the recordings there. All right. All right, so that's the dollar franc. Let's have a look at dollar yen. Dollar yen's continually moving up at the moment. I just need to remember what this line is, 139.38. It's probably from the weekly chart. It's this high over here. So we're just negotiating this level of resistance at the moment, 139.38. And we've been breaking above some other levels. So the weekly trend is up. The day trend is clearly up. And today's intraday dip came back down to day support, 138.74, found support there, to move now potentially above that weekly level. Next major level of resistance is from the monthly chart up here at 141.53. All right, so you've got a continued uptrend on the day chart and on the 4-hour chart there. I would at the moment be simply watching for a pullback. That's overextended on the 4-hour chart. If that doesn't move higher and then pulls back within the fib range I've just drawn, the 62% level at 138.79 lines up perfectly with this daily resistance level at 138.74. So that would be a very good area to watch. We can just drop that to the 15-minute chart. So that's this area here. So 138.74, the 62% level, 138.79. That would be a great area to watch for support. I can see another great area as well if we do trade down today. Central pivot point in the figure there at 139. Those two levels are well worth watching for intraday support today to move back up if we can pull back. All right. All right, let's have a look at gold. All right, a bit of a nasty day yesterday. We're still holding on weekly support though. We've had railroad tracks to the upside. We've had a hammer to the upside, a very nasty reversal candle yesterday back down to support. We did close below support yesterday, which is this weekly high here. But that very negative day yesterday does not bode well for the buyers, although we could simply have another day back up today and it just remains very choppy. The 4-hour chart is just going to show you that it's very choppy and range bound. Clearly supports here. We'll break it down to the 4-hour chart. Clearly support is down on weekly support at 1959. And we've got clear 4-hour resistance here. All right. So those are your reference points, the parameters where buyers and sellers are trading around. They're buying at the bottom there on weekly support, and they're selling up here around about 1985. So look to trade it as a range at the moment. Buying down here potentially to trade back up to the top of the range if we stay in a range there. I'm not so sure we're going to stay in a range. That was a very negative day yesterday, but it's range bound on top of weekly support at the moment. With pairs to the US dollar in very much sell mode at the moment, generally when we have that, gold is usually correlated with that move, so gold may well move down. So from a bit more of a longer term perspective over the next week, it would be nice if we broke below weekly support, clear break below, and then that level become, and then you can look to that level cleared to be resistance for a continued move down. And yeah, we could be moving down to fill in this imbalance here and that gap that got formed. So it's just a little bit difficult there on weekly support at the moment. And Slimy saying it's going to be a big move down once it breaks. Well, could be. It's just, being difficult at the moment. It can trend nicely gold, and it can be very, consolidatory and choppy in areas. So at the moment, it's very choppy. It's deliberating, can it break down through weekly support, or is that area going to hold? All right, so you just have to watch and see. Does it give you a clear break? Rally back to broken supports, and then look to engage. And Isaiah, you want me to look at the CAD yen? All right, so the monthly trend here is down, but we're rallying back up because we've broken this low here. Very clear area of resistance is just approximate. I'm just going to approximate these levels with my lines, but that's at 106. Well, let me put the exact level in 106.50. That's a long way away at the moment, so it's not in purview. But weekly trend is up, but there's a clear level of resistance here. 104.551. All right, so what we're seeing is a bit of a mix of trend between monthly is down, weekly is up. Day trend is up. Just struggling up here at the moment though. 102.90. Don't want to be trading into there. That's obviously being intra-week resistance at the moment. If it stays in some form of consolidation, that this high here has been dealt back down there. Those two candles there getting some form of support there. So that's clear support at 101.81. All right, as we can see, we're in a clear uptrend on the weekly and day charts, but at the moment it's rather choppy. If I was trying to trade in line with that weekly day trend, looking at this area for support. Looking down there for an opportunity to buy might be the go. Where it is at the moment, we've got an even smaller range forming, which is from around about here up to the top, and we're already 3/4 of the way up, so that doesn't offer a great risk reward. All right, we could just stay in that range, so price could just maybe move up to here, hold, and once more want to trade down. A number of the yen pairs are quite consolidated, like the pound yen at the moment, and the euro yen. Obviously, the dollar yen's moving up quite strongly at the moment, pairs to the US dollar moving down quite strongly. So then when you look at the crosses to the yen, they often don't have anywhere to go but go sideways. So that's what we're kind of seeing there. But there's an overall upward move on weekly day charts there. Look to, engage on a dip in a perfect world. All right, I got some more things coming in. Live, you told me you shorted gold yesterday from yesterday's high. Well, that's well done on your part. Timothy, you want to see the dollar yen day chart again? There's the day chart. It's in a clear uptrend at the moment, just moving above this weekly high over here. All right. And Slav, my thoughts on NAS 100? Well, it's taken out the monthly high here, so it's definitely, it could false break that high, but it's definitely in an uptrend at the moment. Now it's taking that top out, and the weekly trend is up, and the daily trend is up. And you're saying a 4-hour triple, you're saying a 4-hour triple top. Don't forget where the trend is here. And this dip down here has gotten support on that. That dip down there yesterday got support on this top. So, that could hold as a triple top. It's last week's high there that we broke earlier in the week. All you could do is, if you want to have a go there, potentially, it could hold as a triple top. It's false broke last week's high once. It could false break it again. It's just wait to see if price gets to 13911. And then on an intraday chart, does it start to want to hold there? And if it does, make a decision. It could be a 4-hour triple top, but it is most definitely against your monthly, weekly, day charts. So I don't know whether you might be just pushing a little bit too hard there. You'll have to work it out yourself if you think it's worth going against those trends at the moment. Of course, the S&P 500 at the moment is slightly up to sideways at resistance. This Nasdaq 100 is clearly in an uptrend now at the moment. It is worth just having a look at the major range. Even though the monthly trend, taking out that high at the moment, it is worth monitoring that range, but 62% level is well away at the moment. So I'm not seeing, I think, trying to get short that at the moment may be hard going, but ultimately it's your decision. The Dow Jones 30, this is only 30 stocks. The Dow Jones 30 is negative. S&P 500 is sideways to slightly up at the moment. Nasdaq's clearly up. So, and the dollar index is clearly up as well too. So usually if the dollar index is up in a clear trend, maybe the indices are down, but that's clearly not happening at the moment, for whatever reason. bit of a mismatch of the general correlation that we're seeing. There's obviously that debt ceiling question at the moment as well. So, all right, hopefully that helped. Any final questions before we finish up? While you're thinking, we'll just have a look at what's coming up next week. Next week, my page will refresh. Going to have live market analysis again next Tuesday and Thursday. And next Wednesday, if this can come up. Doesn't want to come up. We'll just give it a few seconds. All right, it's not wanting to come up, and I can't remember off the top of my head what is next week's topic. So you just load this page up at your leisure, and you'll find out next Wednesday what's coming up. What's the date next week? Next Wednesday is still in this month, so it will be an educational topic. I just can't remember what it is, but I'll know what it is next week, and I'll obviously be on top of it by next Wednesday. I just need to refresh my memory. All right, so sometimes this page doesn't want to refresh at my house. Maybe if I have an link up, get a fresh page in here. All right, doesn't want to load up. My internet must be slow. Or I might just leave it. I'll just go back to my other page and see whether that's loaded up. All right, doesn't want to load up at my page. So you just head over to, I'll give you the link if you don't know what it is. I'm sure you do. You can head over there and see what's coming up next week. And if you've got the time, I look forward to seeing you there. Other than that, thanks very much for your attendance and your questions. All those questions coming in today. Kept me busy for sure. Now, I've got some more other things coming in. Let me just see. I missed some questions here. Techno, you're asking me, do I trade in London session and New York session, or you trade in Sydney session only? I trade through Asia and London sessions. I don't do New York because I have to sleep. And Isaiah, you're saying you're expecting 14200 failure. Is that on the Nasdaq? All right, so you're looking at the 142 level around here. So it's just a little bit short of that 62% level of the major range. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. At the moment, that Nasdaq's in an uptrend for sure at the moment. So it's in an uptrend till it's in a downtrend. So Warren's telling me on May 31st is how to trade the figure. Thank you very much, Warren. All right, so next week we're going to talk about the figure, which is a very useful tool for sure. I use it all the time in my trading. So if you don't know what the figure is or you need a refresher, just join me next Wednesday. Other than that, and Barry, you're telling me the same, so thanks to you too. Other than that, I think I've covered all the questions that have been coming in. If I've missed your question, I apologize, but I think I've covered them all. So I look forward to seeing you all next week if you have the time. Have a great end to the week and a good weekend. And as always, thanks very much for your attendance. It's always appreciated. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.